Hi, everybody. Welcome back to Pagan's Reading Nook. My name is Pagan, and today I'm joined by a friend. If you listen to the other show, you will recognize her voice, and that is the awesome voice of Astrea Taylor, who is a nonfiction writer, but also a fiction writer. So, Astrea, welcome to the show, and I can't wait to talk about your books.
Thank you so much for having me.
It's always a pleasure having you on the show, and you're so much fun to chat with. And now you've been on Pagan's Witchy Corner, what, twice now? Three times?
Yeah, I think so. Twice,
Yeah.
I think.
I think it's twice, and you get to be on this show for the first time and introduced to a whole brand new audience, which is awesome. And your fiction books, and I'm hoping I say this correctly because my French is a little rusty, and that is Belle Sans Merci is one of the titles, and the other one is House of Transformation, correct? Hopefully I said those correctly.
Yeah, I think that works. It's
Okay.
I chose a French title because of the painting and the poem with the same title, which are ironically by English artists, but it's in English.
And Belle Sans Merci is a Beauty and the Beast retelling, correctly? Is it or
It
correct?
Yeah, and I just really love that story as a child, but I think that a lot of us have realized there are some problems with it,
Mhm.
especially the Stockholm syndrome parts. And as much as we like the story, we like the characters, I kind of just wanted to put a different twist on it, and I was just really inspired to make it my own. And I was writing this book at a time where we were having Trump as a president, and not everyone, but some of my friends were like, "You just have to accept it. You just have to get over any issues you may have with this person, and you just
Oh,
have to,
no.
um, you know, uh, you're gonna like him eventually." And like, it was one of those things. I felt like, you know, Belle before she changed her mind about the Beast, before she, you know, and I was like, what if the Beast was actually not that great? And so, this was retelling, and I kind of just had this idea, like, maybe she was this worker. She was killed in the witch trials, and she was demonized into, she. There's a backstory that she actually, as a ghost, she killed were her witch hunters, and
Ooh.
that's revealed a little bit in there, and that's why she has to do some penance. And she works in the realm of hell, and she's working to catch bad guys and kill them so that they don't kill good people. But she doesn't know that her calculations aren't adding up, and her manager isn't managing her well, and it's just, there's mismanagement in hell. I'm sure anyone who works in an office can empathize with that. Um, yeah, and how she escapes, and when she finds she actually does have some powers, and how she defeats the evil overlord that was, causing a lot of problems with everyone's lives.
I love that. That sounds like such a fun retelling. And, the fun thing about Beauty and the Beast retellings, and there's dozens upon dozens of them. One of my favorite fiction books this year is actually a Beauty and the Beast retelling. And so it's fun to see all the different storylines that can come out of this traditional tale and how they can all take on a life of their own in their own rights and be not as you said, terrible as the original with the Stockholm syndrome and all this
Mhm.
other stuff. So it's really fun to see the different aspects of it. And I really like that you kind of gave her her power back in a way, which is really cool.
Thank you. And I modeled the character after this one woman or girl who was killed in Germany for being, they said that she was the prettiest girl in the whole village, and they killed her during the witch trials. And
She
I
had
was
to be
like,
a witch
yeah,
because she was too pretty, right?
yeah, and her last name was Gobel, so I was like, Gobel, and it just kind of took a life of its own. And I have a part in there with respect to the actual spirit of that, so it's not, complete horrendous mistreatment of spirits who are, who I believe actually exist. But it just inspired me to just talk back to this energy that was hanging around at that time. And of course, we had a very popular witchcraft resurgence, magical resurgence at that time too.
Mhm.
Um, what's interesting is when I was shopping this book around in 2016, Um, I finished it in 2017, but I was shopping it around, as I was editing it. And everyone was like, we don't want books on witchcraft. We don't want magical books. We don't want books about angels or demons or anything like that. And of course, we've seen how popular these storylines have been, even in the past, I don't know, few years
Oh, yeah.
since 2017. Like we've had Sabrina, we've had a lot. You know, the top of my head, I can't think of a lot of them, but we've had so many storylines where there is this high fantasy. And it's so important to all of us to have that outlet. And I think that the book companies kind of underestimated the allure of those kind of books.
And that's really interesting too, because I would say probably since like 2016, witchcraft's in. Like it's all in and popular right now. And so are like obviously monsters and all those kinds of things. So like your book would have
Mhm.
fit perfectly right in with all the others. And I would say probably in the last like 2 years alone, I can
Mhm.
think of maybe like 20 fiction witchcraft books off the top of my head. And that's
Mhm.
just off the top of my head. So I would say that, the publishers that were just like, oh no, we don't want to do this. Yeah, they missed the boat. They may be
Yeah.
on the boat now, but they had to swim to catch up kind of thing. Um, but it's so fun to see kind of the different inspirations that you can have. Obviously, you have the poem by Keats, and you also have the painting, and obviously the spirit who kind of maybe I would say kind of spoke in your ear and was like, "Hey, tell my story, but in a fun new way," kind of thing.
Yeah, perhaps. I mean, I think that that kind of redemption story is something we can all relate to and we all love so much.
Mhm. Absolutely. Now, why? What part of the poem by Keats kind of really spoke to you and made you inspired to write this book?
Well, he talks about this fairy child. And she's, if you look at the painting too, it describes the same thing. She's kind of drawing this knight toward her, and she takes this knight on this like wicked ride, the wicked trip. And basically at the end of it she kills him, and I was like, well, why is that happening? What's going on here? What's the reason for this? Um and I thought, this beautiful woman who looked out of place, who was killing this knight, maybe the knight deserved it. I don't know. uh he seems kind of predatory in his, like, going with her, or like, pursuing her in some, you
Mhm.
could see it as that. So I kind of thought that maybe she was killing him to gain some kind of penance. And since she does seem otherworldly, the fairy child, I thought maybe she was from another time, a previous time. And it all just started coming together in my head, like this beautiful, just it just all started coming together. And I was also working in this kind of hellscape of an office, and that inspired me as well. So I just got a playlist of some very beautiful, angsty, gothy songs, and just started getting to work with this. And I used NaNoWriMo to help me finish the first draft.
I love that. I love that. Now, do you still have the playlist available for like people to go follow?
I will see if I do. If I do, I'll send it to you and we can put it in the show notes. If
Okay,
I
cool.
don't, I can
Yeah.
remember enough of those songs. So
Okay.
good.
'Cause it's really funny how many people actually love the playlists that go with the books, like the book soundtracks kind of to do with it. Um,
Yeah.
one of the series I'm working on has a very lengthy soundtrack to go with it. But it's for the entire series, not just one book. So it works out.
Nice.
But yeah, it's so cool how music can just kind of like get you in that mood and just start to write and all that. There it's funny because I actually had a recent writing kind of thing happen with that. I'm working on a story for a new edition of one of my books. And I was listening to the song Dangerous Hands by I don't remember his name. He's on TikTok, but the song is called Dangerous Hands. And the story was not supposed to have, like, a little bit of a dark side to it, and now it does, and I kinda blame that song because the song is very dark in its own way, and I'm like,
Hmm.
"Oh, Well, that's okay, but it worked out beautifully. So I'm excited
Mhm.
to see kind of the angsty story or soundtrack to go with this story because I think that'll be fun to read and listen to at the same time. So that'll be
Yeah, I'm
cool.
excited to share that.
So let's talk a little bit about your other book, House of Transformation. Where
Mhm.
did this book come into being?
Okay, so this is a story about three women who find themselves thrown together and they have a haunted house that also is a character in the story as well through subtle ways. But then they're having like wild parties and things get out of control. Somebody's opening up portals and
Oh, wow.
yeah, in the house, spirit portals and um it gets really crazy and there's this art along with it. So, they're making art at the same time. And, I have to say this was inspired somewhat by some personal experiences, but also by just, what could have been. And so there's a parallel storyline. There's this pop star whose life is falling apart. The paparazzi are following her everywhere, kind of like Britney Spears. I wrote this when
Hmm.
Britney was having a breakdown and, I was really heartbroken when Amy Winehouse passed away too.
Yeah.
And this book kind of makes me think of them in their worst times. And this is a redemption story as well. And these two best friends who are estranged, but trying to fit their lives together again. And then they have this turbulent past that kind of more and more about that haunted house, kind of stuff gets revealed along the way. And, it really all started because one of my friends said this one line. She said, "Wouldn't you just hate it if she got famous?" And I said, "Yes, but that would be amazing." So, it's one of those things like, someone can say the smallest thing to you, and it just takes your mind on this whole other roller coaster. And of
Hmm.
course, everything's fiction. There are no characters who are real life people. Any inspiration has been merged with 10 other people, you know, so it's not a direct retelling of any stories of my life, but the inspiration, we find inspiration in our lives, we can't deny
Hmm.
that kind of aspect.
I think that that's so cool though that you're bringing these little teeny bits of inspiration and then it's just like off like a rocket, just boom, there it goes. And there's the story flooding out before you're like, hold on, let me grab a pen.
Yeah. That is
I love
such
when
a
those
great
happen.
feeling. Yeah, and that was my first book. That was the first one I ever finished. I had
Oh,
tried
that's
so many
awesome.
times. Yeah, it just flowed out of me though, and I used NaNoWriMo for that one too, and it just really was so revelatory to actually finish a book, and
I
made me so
love
happy.
that. That's so awesome. So I have to ask, and all the authors I ever ask this to hate this question so much, but out of both your books, who's your favorite character? And I know it's difficult to choose one, but do your best.
Okay. Well, I would say in Belle Sans Merci, there is a character named Mary, and she's actually she's actually Typhoid Mary, who's doing penance for having killed people from typhoid. And she works in the kitchens.
Oh my god.
And she's Belle's best friend. And, when Belle has to run away because, she ran out of the castle where she was imprisoned, Mary comes and visits her and she brings her her favorite tea and some groceries. And it's a really sweet friendship. And I do this thing with all my books. I'm like, beta readers, what do you think of this? What do you think of that?
Mhm.
And it's really good because they can tell you, what's working and what's not working. And overall, the thing they loved the most was the friendship between Mary and Belle. And I love it too. Like I want them to have their own spin-off.
I
Okay,
mean,
and another
write it. That's a
yeah,
thing.
another fun factoid. Mary's weapon of choice is a meat cleaver.
Oh my god.
Yeah.
That's so
So,
awesome. She sounds like a really fun character, to be fair. So I love that.
yeah. Yeah.
Now out of House of Transformation, who's your favorite?
Okay, so I would have to say the pop star Ananda is my favorite. She just is she has this magnetic personality, and she's, like, very intense and deep and charismatic, and she has her own agenda, which, I find is also admirable. But, for all of her faults, I just love her, and I think, making her the pop star and all of her personality traits and quirks and flaws and whatnot, is just the perfect thing because I love her, my readers loved her, and, everyone was like, "I could really see this pop star being a real person."
Oh, that's so awesome. So, um, do you have any other fiction books that you've got kind of sitting in the works that you would like to kind of talk about or tease? And yeah, we'll start there and then we'll continue on.
I do not. I have a lot of ideas that I haven't finished, and one of them was, strikingly similar to a concept, kind of like the night circus
Oh,
or The
neat.
Greatest Showman, just a circusy kind of book, but, I never quite finished that. Another was, the history of, uh, it got really complicated, but, like, the, matriarchal tribes and the shift into patriarchal tribe kinda living and stuff like that, which is really complicated and historical and
Hmm.
I kinda got in the weeds on that one. But, those characters still live on with me even though their story hasn't been told or shared or finished. I feel like they're like, "Hey, are you gonna come back? Because 'Cause we're still here." You know, you can probably relate to that, right?
Yes, I can relate to that very, very much. I have so many characters that are like, "Hey,
Mhm.
hi, we're still here. Are you gonna finish this? Because like you're like 3 quarters of the way done with this book. Can you just finish this one? And then we can take a break. That's fine." That was ongoing like 7 years now. But yeah.
Mhm.
So
Yeah.
I'll get there eventually, I swear, I promise. That's what I keep telling my
Yeah.
husband who keeps calling me Georgette R. R. Martin. So um
That's a good one.
yeah. To be fair, it's also a fantasy series, so, like, yeah, he's just like, "Could you just finish the book, please?"
Mhm. Aw, that's great, and so he sounds like a good fan.
He is a good fan, he's a great beta reader, he's a great sounding board, he's great at all the stuff. He helps with, pretty much everything that I need, and I help him too, but I've also been waiting for him to finish one of his book series, so, we do it to each other. It's a love-hate relationship in that regard as far as writing goes, because 'cause we're just like, "Hey, I haven't finished mine yet, have you finished yours? Huh?" And then
Well,
we're like, "We're not talking about me, we're talking about you."
I have used NaNoWriMo to finish writing a book that I started, so you
I've
could
done
try that.
NaNoWriMo, but the only downside to NaNoWriMo is I have ADHD. And so my ADHD sometimes will be like, yes, we're going to do the things. And it's like you get all organized, and I'll get halfway through NaNoWriMo. And then it's just like, nope, I'm done. I don't want to do it anymore. So
On to
I
something
have
else.
the worst luck with those kinds of things. And so I tried. I actually did pretty well. Um, Editing a book through Nano.
Mhm,
That was one thing I did really well through Nano was I made it all the way, well, it was the Camp Nano, it was during April.
mhm,
And so I was able to edit a book all the way through. And that was one thing I did. I didn't get any like writing done per se, but I did do
mhm.
editing. So I guess that counts, maybe.
Yeah, it does. I've used it for editing too. It's kind of just that free magical. There's kind of a peer pressure with Nano because
Yeah,
everyone
there
else is
is.
getting their words counts in and stuff, and it's it's like, oh, I have an excuse to not make any plans in the month of November. That sounds great.
Oh my gosh, actually, that does sound right. It's like, I'm sorry, I will be busy writing. Which
Yep.
honestly enough, for the podcast and, for everybody listening, this is your first like teaser of it. I'm gonna be taking most of the month of November off. I actually scheduled vacation time for the first time in 3 years of podcasting. So yeah, most of November I'll actually be off, so maybe I can actually do Nano for once in my life.
Yeah, and vacations are great times to do writing because your mind gets out of its usual routine.
Hmm. Yes, that is very true. So let's talk a little bit also kind of bringing it full circle back around. You have a podcast you've been working on recently. You want to talk a little bit about that and tease it to everybody?
Sure. So the podcast is called The Deep Deep. And I think you have to search my name, Astrea Taylor, with it right now because
Okay.
it is new. It only has one tiny little season in so far. But basically, these things happen to all of us. We were just talking before the show about Mercury retrograde and
Mhm.
some technological issues, and then, just having these interesting dreams. And we both have had this phenomena. So the podcast is all about what I'm sensing as the current energy, what people are telling me about what is the current energy. And season one was all about me um, talking about things by myself. And for season two, I'm bringing in some of my closest friends to discuss these insights, people who are really aware. They're going to be authors, mediums, shop
Mhm.
owners, and all kinds of other people who just have kind of these insights as well to talk about just what's going on in the current world.
Oh, that'll be neat. I'm excited to listen to that. And so that's the Deep Deep, you said?
Yep.
Okay. So everybody who's listening, I will have a show link in the show description for you guys so you can go subscribe to Astrea's show. And if that's your cup of tea, definitely go give it a listen. Also make sure you click the little stars and review it and all that good stuff. That's a cool thing. That actually helps the shows get seen a lot more. You can also do that with this show, which is really cool. I actually realized you could do that on Spotify the other day, and I was like, hey, that's neat. Didn't even know that was a thing until recently. So that's cool. I know you can obviously do that on Apple, so make sure you do that everywhere you can. And yeah, it's gonna be awesome. Now, do you have I know that you do a lot of nonfiction stuff, but do you have any book signings coming up?
I'm going to do a festival called the Earth Warrior Festival in Clarksville, Ohio, Southern
Okay.
Ohio, in the end of September. And then I have the Witches Ball in Columbus, Ohio on November 4th.
Oh, that's neat. I want to say somebody else mentioned that they were going to the witches ball. Oh gosh.
They are across the country, so it
I
could be
want
a
to
different
say
one.
oh, it's gonna bug me now. Um, it might have been uh McKernan who might have mentioned it. Maybe.
Oh, he's
I love
great.
Ash. I love Ash.
Yeah.
He's
I
such
love
a
his book
wonderful
too.
human.
Yeah.
So, but yes, so that is super cool. I wish I could go to the witches ball with you. It sounds so awesome.
I wish you could too. It's in
um,
November.
it is in November, but obviously, like with all of like the crazy COVID stuff in my immune system, I won't be able to do it
Oh,
because
yeah.
yeah, that's the downside to being somebody who's chronically ill, and it's like, oh, I can't go do the in-person things. Um,
Yeah. I
I
think
live
there will be a
vicariously
lot of
through other people.
masks. Okay. Yeah. I'll take some pictures then.
Okay. I'll just stalk your Instagram for all the pictures for it. Um, so speaking of Instagram, where can people find you on social media?
I'm at Astrea Taylor on most platforms. And Facebook is Astrea Taylor Author.
Okay. I will have all those in the show description for everybody who's listening. But Ashray, this has been so much fun, and I can't wait to hear all about obviously your nonfiction books and your fiction books and everything that you're going to be doing in the future. And if you are able to connect with Astrea at any of the events that she mentioned, make sure you do that and send her some love from this podcast. And if you can't, make sure you go and check out all of her books, especially if you enjoy the witchy content as well. The all of her nonfiction books are just phenomenal. They're so good. The most recent one, which I love so much, actually is still sitting on my desk and it's like full of notes and like I actually normally don't write in my books at all, but like yours is the first one that got like notes scribbled through it. And because it has so many great things in it that I'm just like, this has to be applied to my life here and this has to be applied there. Um, and that
Oh,
is
that's
your
wonderful.
creativity book, which I want to make sure I get the
Hmm.
title 100% correct. That is Inspiring Creativity Through Magic. For those who are writers who listen to this show, this book is 100% a wonderful book for all creators. Highly recommend, even if you are not into witchcraft, it applies to everybody. So, highly, highly recommend. Um, but go check out all of Estrea's books and love everything that she does because they're all just awesome and she's awesome. So, Estrella, thank you for being on the show again.
Thank you so much. It was so much fun. I just love talking with you.
I love talking with you too, and we're gonna have to do it again very soon. And this is kind of gonna be like your whole thing of, hey, go write more fiction books so you can come back on the show again.
Yeah, those characters and you, I think you're compelling me to do it. And
Yep,
November is coming up.
exactly. So, everybody who's listening, take care of yourselves, be kind to each other, and I will see you all next time. Bye, everyone.